Fellow soil enthusiasts, let's be honest for a moment. We've all been there, standing beside that intimidating compost pile, pitchfork in hand, dreading the backbreaking work of turning what feels like a mountain of decomposing matter. I used to think that creating rich black gold for my garden meant committing to a grueling workout routine every few weeks. But what if I told you there's a better way? A method so simple that it practically runs itself while you focus on the fun parts of gardening. Welcome to the world of no-turn composting, where patience trumps perspiration, and nature does the heavy lifting for you. This isn't just about being lazy, though I won't judge if that's part of your motivation. It's about working smarter, not harder, and creating an ecosystem that thrives on neglect. The magic of no-turn composting lies in understanding how decomposition naturally occurs in forest floors around the world. In nature, leaves fall, animals leave droppings, plants die back, and everything slowly breaks down into rich humus without anyone wielding a pitchfork. The secret is in creating the right conditions from the start and letting the natural process unfold. Traditional composting wisdom tells us to turn piles to introduce oxygen. But here's what many gardeners don't realize. Properly constructed no-turn systems create their own aeration through careful layering and the natural activities of soil organisms. Worms, bacteria, fungi, and countless other decomposers create tunnels and pathways that allow air to flow through your pile naturally. The key difference is time and initial setup. While turned compost might be ready in a few months, no-turn compost typically takes 6 months to 2 years to fully mature. But here's the beautiful part. You're not just making one batch. You're creating a continuous system that produces finished compost on a rolling basis while requiring minimal intervention from you. Cold composting is the foundation of successful no-turn systems. Unlike hot composting, which requires precise carbon-to-nitrogen ratios and regular turning to maintain high temperatures, cold composting works at ambient temperatures and relies on a diverse community of organisms to break down materials slowly but surely. Start by choosing a location that receives partial shade and has good drainage. Full sun can dry out your pile too quickly, while deep shade might keep it too wet. I've found that a spot that gets morning sun and afternoon shade works perfectly in most climates. Your first layer should be coarse materials like small branches, corn stalks, or even crumpled newspaper. This creates drainage and allows air to enter from the bottom. Think of it as the foundation of a house. It needs to be solid and well ventilated. Next comes the alternating layers that make cold composting so forgiving. Add a layer of nitrogen-rich green materials like kitchen scraps, fresh grass clippings, or coffee grounds, followed by carbon-rich brown materials like dried leaves, shredded paper, or cardboard. The ratio doesn't need to be perfect. Anywhere from 2:1 to 4:1 brown to green materials will work beautifully. One of my favorite approaches is what I call the lasagna method, borrowed from permaculture practices. Just like building a lasagna, you're creating distinct layers that will eventually meld together into something greater than the sum of their parts. Start with a thick layer of carbon materials. I like to use a mixture of shredded leaves and cardboard. Make this layer about 6 inches deep. The cardboard serves double duty. It breaks down slowly, providing long-term carbon, and it initially suppresses weeds while your pile establishes itself. Add your kitchen scraps in a thin layer, no more than 2 inches deep. Bury these scraps within the carbon layer to prevent pest issues and odors. This is crucial for urban gardeners or those with close neighbors. Coffee grounds, vegetable peels, eggshells, and fruit scraps all work wonderfully here. Top with another layer of brown materials, then add some garden soil or finished compost if you have it. This inoculates your pile with the beneficial microorganisms needed to kickstart decomposition. Even a thin dusting will introduce millions of helpful bacteria and fungi to your system. Continue this layering process each time you add materials. The beauty is that you don't need to add everything at once. Your pile can grow organically as you generate kitchen scraps and yard waste throughout the season. Water management is critical in no-turn systems because you can't rely on turning to redistribute moisture. Your pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge, moist but not soggy. Too wet, and you'll create anaerobic conditions that lead to slimy, smelly decomposition. Too dry, and the process slows to a crawl. I've learned to read the signs my pile gives me. If I notice a strong ammonia smell, it's too wet and needs more brown materials on top. If the pile seems to have stalled and materials aren't breaking down after several months, It probably needs water and perhaps some fresh nitrogen sources. During dry spells I water my pile like I would a garden bed, giving it a deep soaking rather than frequent light sprinklings. In rainy periods I keep a tarp handy to prevent oversaturation. The goal is consistent moderate moisture throughout the pile. Even the most low-maintenance composting system occasionally needs attention. The most common issue I encounter is the pile becoming too compacted over time. While you're not turning the entire pile, sometimes giving the top layer a gentle fluffing with a garden fork can restore airflow without major disruption. Pest issues usually indicate that food scraps aren't buried deeply enough in carbon materials. I've found that maintaining at least a 4-inch cap of brown materials on top keeps raccoons, flies, and other unwanted visitors at bay. If you're dealing with persistent rodent problems, avoid adding any food scraps and stick to yard waste until your pile establishes itself. Slow decomposition often means your pile needs more nitrogen or moisture. Adding fresh grass clippings or diluted liquid fertilizer can jumpstart a stalled pile. Remember, patience is your greatest tool in no-turn composting, but that doesn't mean ignoring obvious problems. For gardeners who want a steady supply of finished compost, I recommend setting up a 3-bin system. The first bin is for fresh materials, the second for actively decomposing matter that's 6 months to a year old, and the third for finished or nearly finished compost. This system allows you to harvest compost continuously while always having space for new materials. Every 6 months, you graduate materials from one bin to the next, creating a production line that ensures you never run out of black gold for your garden. Each bin operates on the same no-turn principles, but having 3 bins means you're never waiting for compost to finish. By the time you've used up the contents of one bin, the next is ready for harvest. No-turn composting works year-round, but the pace changes with the seasons. Spring and fall are typically the most active periods, when moderate temperatures and natural moisture create ideal conditions for decomposition. Summer heat can slow things down unless you maintain consistent moisture, while winter essentially puts the process on pause in cold climates. I've learned to work with these natural rhythms rather than fighting them. Fall is prime time for building new piles with abundant leaf litter. Spring is perfect for starting new bins and harvesting finished compost for the growing season. Summer requires the most attention to moisture management, while winter is a time for planning and patience. The long-term success of your no-turn system depends on viewing it as a living ecosystem rather than a waste disposal method. Feed it regularly, maintain appropriate moisture, and trust the process. After a year or two, you'll have established a thriving community of beneficial organisms that can handle almost anything you throw at them. The beauty of no-turn composting lies not just in its simplicity, but in how it changes your relationship with garden waste and soil health. Instead of seeing fallen leaves and kitchen scraps as problems to be disposed of, you'll start viewing them as valuable resources for building your soil's fertility. Your garden will thank you with improved plant health, better water retention, and reduced need for fertilizers. More importantly, you'll have joined the ranks of gardeners who understand that sometimes the best action is patient inaction, allowing natural processes to work their magic while you enjoy the other pleasures of gardening. Remember, every expert gardener started as a beginner, and every successful compost pile began with a single layer of organic matter. Your no-turn composting journey starts with that first shovelful of leaves or handful of kitchen scraps. Trust the process, embrace the patience it requires, and prepare to be amazed by what nature can accomplish with just a little encouragement from you. Ready to transform your garden with effortless composting? Subscribe to Soilsage Chronicles for more practical gardening wisdom that works with nature, not against it. Share this article with fellow gardeners who are ready to work smarter, and let's build a community of soil-savvy growers who understand that the best gardens grow from the ground up.